Hello and welcome back to our channel. We are meeting with Luan today, who is a physiotherapist. We will learn lots today about what a physio does and how they can help.
Why did you have become a physio?
Funny story, I originally didn't want to be a physio. I wanted to be a speech therapist because speech was my first choice. Where I grew up in India, when you pass year 12 and you sit your entrance exams, you get to choose, and I didn't get into speech first, but I got into physio and I thought I'll give it a go, and once I started I absolutely loved it. But I think the main driving force behind me wanting to work in health was I always wanted to help people, and it wouldn't matter which way I did it, as long as I had that opportunity. I think that's the main driving force for me wanting to be a physio.
What type of physio does?
A physio is basically someone that uses different physio or physiotherapy, also sometimes known in America as physical therapy, is basically the use of a combination of exercise and hands-on treatment, which is like manual therapy, which involves massage, joint mobilization, that sort of stuff, to help people with different physical ailments. So there are different kinds of physiotherapy. There's physiotherapy that I specialized in, which is mainly musculoskeletal, so muscles, joints, bones, that sort of stuff. There's neurological physiotherapists who mainly deal with people who've had traumatic brain injuries, spinal cord injuries. There's pediatric physiotherapists who mainly only treat children and help with developmental milestones. Then there are aged care physios that only work in aged care facilities. There's community physios, and then there's cardiorespiratory, which mainly work in hospitals and help people after they've had surgery. And that's just some of the many, there are also little subsects of all of that. So there's a lot of, and the more you study into a particular subject, the deeper you go into it, the more specialized you become.
How do you describe your treatment style?
I'd say I go for more of a collaborative approach, in the sense that I like to do things that people enjoy. So I wouldn't make someone that doesn't like to walk, or someone that doesn't like to do a particular kind of exercise. I like to get my patients' input into whatever treatment I'm going to give them, because I think it's important that when I'm trying to help someone, it's in a way that they would like it. So I think if I had to describe my treatment style, I'd say it's very collaborative, and I like to get input from the patient as well.
Why do massage?
To understand pain is something that is like a signal to our brain that something is wrong, right? So that when we receive that signal, we know that something's hurting. So when those muscles become short and they're not receiving as much blood or as much oxygen as they should, and they're not at the correct length, they send a signal to the brain through the nerves in the form of pain, and so then we know that the muscle is sore.
How can we look after our body?
Okay, so we can look after our bodies. One, we need to have a good diet. Because as I said earlier, you can't out-exercise a bad diet, so eating plenty of fruit and veg, enough of protein is essential. That doesn't mean you don't allow yourself treats. You can allow yourself treats in moderation. But definitely eating a good diet, drinking plenty of water, getting the right amount of sleep, and most importantly, well, at least from my perspective, exercise. So any sort of movement to get your heart rate going, to get your muscles working, is probably these are the four things that's probably the best way to look after your body.
What's your favorite exercise?
Well, my favorite exercise is actually walking. I think walking outside is great for you. It's easy to do. Most people can do it. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be far. But as long as it's probably, the recommended amount is 150 minutes of cardio a week, which is technically 30 minutes, a 30-minute walk. And so I think that's the easiest thing to recommend to people, and so it's my favorite exercise, and it's the one that people are most likely to do.
How do you tailor treatments for different age and different levels?
First, I get to know the person, so I feel like it doesn't matter what age of physical ability it is. It's actually every individual is different. So you may see a few people with back pain, for example, but each presentation will be different. So what I do is I get to know the person, get to know what they do, what they like doing, and what they don't like. I think that's where we spend a lot of time in our initial consultation, which is usually the longest, based on what information we get, and we then come up with a plan. I always ask people if that's what they want to do and if it's something they would enjoy doing, or they would enjoy receiving that sort of treatment. And then based on that, that's how we design the plan and we progress. And I always recheck with patients every time I see them to see if they're still on board and if that's what they would like me to continue doing.
How do you keep patient motivated during recovery?
To be honest, it's actually, it can sometimes be hard. Some people are naturally very motivated and some people are not. So what we do is we set goals, a goal that we sort of consult with the patient and set a goal that's meaningful to them, because if it's not meaningful to someone, then they're not going to be invested in it. So we set goals, and after every session, I usually sort of say like, okay, this was our goal, we are this much closer to it, or this is what we've done today, and always reminding people of how far they've come is a good way to keep them motivated and sort of showing them how close they are towards their goal.
How do you stay up to date with new research and practices?
So being a physiotherapist means you've got to register with the with APRA, which is the national regulatory body. They require to keep your registration every year. You have to spend 20 hours in professional development, and you can get audited at any time. So if you do get audited, you have to present, or you have to give them a portfolio or all the information about all this study that you've done through the year. So just as a habit, we one, do a lot of reading of articles, but also at the workplaces that I work at, most of them will have courses or like what you call in-services, where all the physios come together. We all learn about a new topic every week or every couple of weeks, and we stay updated like that. The other way we do it is we do courses that are run by the Australian Physiotherapy Association or different organizations that conduct courses in special interest subjects that we have, and that's how we stay up to date.
And are those just like a refresher courses just to stay up to date for each year?
Some of them are refresher, but sometimes it's presenting all the new research so that's been done on a particular subject. You obviously can't cover everything in a year, but if you have a special interest and you want to know what's the latest on, there's definitely a course or an article or a series of articles out there for what you're looking for.
So being a physio person, has there ever been a time where you have to explain the complexity of injuries to your patients?
I think that's an everyday thing, explaining the complexity of different conditions. So what I usually do is I might say, like if you enjoy playing football and you roll your ankle, how that impacts your recovery is that you may have to stay away from it for a little while, but the aim of our treatment in that period where you're staying away from your sport is to make your ankle strong enough to then go back to doing what you love the most. So I think in terms of trying to explain complex things to people, the best way to do it is to make it relevant to them and then simplify it to the best of my ability. I think that's what I do.
Now, how do you assess and diagnose a patient?
So when a patient first comes in, we do what you call a subjective assessment, where we ask a lot of questions.
Now, what is subjective?
Subjective is where we ask a lot of questions.
Yep.
So we'll ask people what brings them there, or how can we help them today, what symptoms they're experiencing. Then we ask about the symptoms, like do they come on in the morning, do they come on at night, how bad are they, and then we do, so we ask them a lot of questions in the beginning, whether they've had any scans. We then follow it up with an objective assessment. So an objective assessment is when we observe things. So if it's their ankle, we'll get them to move it up and down, get them to go up on their tippy toes, do a series of tests to see what is lacking, what hurts, what they're not strong at, what they do they have enough balance, and we assess those in what you call the objective assessment. Based on the objective assessment and the subjective assessment, we take all that information that we get from both of those things, and we come up with something called a provisional diagnosis. It's not the final answer, but it's what we think it is. Based on what we think it is, if there are any scans or any other tests that have been done where there are reports and they've looked inside the body basically to confirm our provisional diagnosis, then we would have a final diagnosis. But otherwise, we work with the provisional diagnosis. So once we have that provisional diagnosis, we treat based on what we've seen. So if we've seen that someone doesn't have enough strength, we give them strengthening exercises. Or if a muscle's really tight, we may give them stretching. And we trial that for a period of time. Based on what we found out from our different assessments and the goals that we've set. And we try that for a period of time, and then we reassess. Either at the end of the session, we'll reassess to see if there's any change from any of the hands-on stuff we've done, so any massage or joint mobilization that we've done, we reassess to see if there's any change from that. But we also then, the next time you see someone, we'll reassess and see if they've done their exercises, that means they'll be stronger, but if they're not any stronger, that means they haven't done their exercises, even though sometimes people lie to you.
What is your approach when the treatment or treatments are not working?
So when a treatment isn't working, the quicker we accept that it's not working, the quicker we can do something about it. If we keep on doing the same thing over and over again, then we're not going to really get anywhere. So the quicker we first admit it's not working, then reassess, see what's going on, try a different approach. Or if that different approach doesn't work, it's okay to, you've done everything in your capacity to try and help this condition, but you're not sort of being successful in it. It's okay to take the next step, that is refer forward. So that would mean that if physiotherapy is not working, we've done everything, then maybe a specialist review is needed. So you get like a surgeon or a doctor specialized in that area to have another look at it. Or you could even sometimes get another physio who's maybe a little bit more senior to have another look at it. So a different set of eyes sometimes means that you may get a different opinion. So I feel like I don't shy away from second opinions because if something I'm doing and after I've reassessed and done everything I think I can do is not working, then it's okay to have someone else look at it and see what they think.
What would you like to be best remembered for when you die?
I think I started doing physio to help people, and when I die, that's what I want to be remembered for.
So your favorite Disney movies?
Okay, this is showing my age a little, is actually The Lion King. I actually watched it as an adult. I didn't watch it as a child, and I cried. It was a beautiful movie, and hopefully one day my children will have the courage to watch it, but without crying.
Who would you invite to dinner and why?
I'm going to say the Pope to dinner. I think his life would be fascinating. And I would invite him just to get a preview into what goes on. It seems also mysterious and wonderful when you hear it on the TV, so I was like, it might be interesting to know in person what that's like.
Would you make something or would you buy takeaway? Oh,
I'd cook. I'd 100% cook.
What would you make?
I try not to kill him with spicy food because I'm Indian, so a lot of our food is very spicy. Maybe butter chicken.
Would you make dessert or no?
100% dessert. I would miss dinner and give him dessert.
What's dessert?
Maybe panna cotta. Actually, it's my favorite dessert to make.
Are you afraid of heights?
No, I'm not.
No?
No.
So if someone asked you to go on a ride, you would go with them?
I'd be a little scared because, but I wouldn't be too too petrified, no.
What does a physio session look like?
So physio session, depending on which session it is, the first session is usually a lot of talking, where as I said before, like we ask a lot of questions. Feels a little bit like an interrogation sometimes, but the more questions we ask, the more information we get, the easier it becomes, and we try to establish rapport with the patient. So for someone to be invested and engaged in a physio session, we need to get to know them better. They need to get to know us better. So the first session usually involves a lot of talking. It also involves some assessment, so getting some movements, checking for strength, different things, and also maybe a little bit of treatment depending on how the person is feeling. So if they're not too tired or not in too much pain, we may do some treatment and then give them some exercises to take home. Follow-up sessions, similar pattern where we still do a little bit of talking, just find out how they've been going with whatever we've done so far, do a little bit of an assessment, treat, and then reassess at the end. Then we send people away with either some information or something to do on their own.
As a physio, you said you do exercises. Do you do any yoga poses or anything with your patients or no?
Sometimes, if that's something they are interested in, I definitely like to incorporate it. So I usually will ask patients, like some people hate exercise, and it's a fact, but if they enjoy dancing, then we'll try and incorporate that into their exercise. I have a patient who, doesn't know what she likes, so we've tried boxing. And now she's enjoying boxing. It's so it depends on what people like, and it's good to try a variety of things, and then just incorporate that.
What's the most interesting injury you have treated?
It's a very it's called complex regional pain syndrome, and it is scary for the person that has it, but it's a fascinating thing where if someone has had a significant injury or pain in any, like the arm or the leg, over a period of time, and that pain has become chronic, so it's been there for a long period of time, the body actually changes. And so the hand may become bigger, redder, more swollen. The hair on the arm changes,
so
the nails.
When it's swollen?
And you can't really use a lot of compression. So in those kind of people, a lot of the treatment aspect of it is education for them to understand that there isn't actually something wrong, and that's just their brain's way of processing what's going on with the limb. And then also a big part of it is to slowly incorporate exercise and function and get them to start using the limb like it was before. Rather than because what happens is because it changes like that, people start avoiding using it. And so it's very fascinating to see how the brain changes and how it adapts as the condition progresses or regresses.
We had lots of questions for Luan and hope you enjoyed our newest episode.